What's going on, guys? Jonah here, or more JLP. I have 21 subscribers on this channel now. Oh, oopsie. There we go. Um, so, as you can see from the thumbnail, my last meal. So this video is going to be about, so I've left the MEPS station, right? So I'm on the bus, in the van with two battle buddies. Cage and Cummings is, I believe, what their names were. But yeah, we're driving 6 hours to reception. So I'm not necessarily gonna go over general information like what reception is. Basically, reception is just it's a place you go before you actually go to your basic training company. It's where you get your uniforms, you do a lot of paperwork, you do medical, you do stuff like that pretty much, right? Like a MEPS 3.0 almost. So before we got into Fort Benning, we stopped by the Golden Corral. That is the last meal I ate before I was an official U.S. Army soldier. So we ate at the Golden Corral. You know, I ate as much as I could, really. Super nervous the whole time. Super scared. I cried in the van, like halfway, almost all the way there, pretty much. So we're pulling up on a post. It's dark. It's probably 7:30 at night right now. So we get there, right? So in a lot of videos you guys will see, it's like, oh, people showing up at basic training. Almost all of those videos, they're showing up at reception. So we're in civilian clothes, right? I have a neon orange Wounded Warrior Project polo and some khakis, because that's what I swore in with. I can show a couple of pictures. I don't have a great editing software, but I can show a couple of pictures. But basically, so you get out of the van, and a drill sergeant comes out and talks to us. I don't remember everything exactly. We don't get smoked or anything. I don't even think we get yelled at. It's like only 3 of us there. We walk into the building, and we look to the left, and there's like a bunch of wooden pews. There's some on the left, some on the right, and there's 2 projectors. Now I went to Fort Benning, so this is 30th AG Reception Battalion. That's where we went. That's where I went. There was only like 2 other people there. We just sat down and kind of hung out. Like, we were told to, I believe at that time we were told to call our families and let them know we were there, and then to turn our phones off and just to hold on to our phones for that. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, we actually just kind of hung out. It was probably almost an hour or so, and then like 2 or 3 big buses of people got out. And then once they got out, and they came into the room, you know, they stood outside, they showed them position of attention, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I'm sorry, it's a little rusty. It's been almost 4 years. So they do that. Once they get into the room we're in, now it's packed. There's a whole bunch of people. There's people in there with beards. There's people in there with dreadlocks. I had my hair cut-ish. I didn't have it shaven. Like, you're going to need to get shaven either way. It doesn't really matter. Just definitely come shaven. Don't come with a beard. Like, you're not going to get an electric razor or anything to make the beard easier. So make sure you come in clean shaven. But anyways, and another thing is, so where I was, so at Fort Benning at the time, females had just been able to do combat MOSs, so like tankers, infantry, stuff like that. So there are a couple of infantry females on the post, but there was absolutely none in my reception or in my basic training. I just went to BCT, which was basic combat training, and it was not integrated at all with females, and it still isn't at that spot at Fort Benning. Like I said, there's only 2 battalions, so there's not very many purely basic training people on Fort Benning. Almost everybody on Fort Benning is OSIT, so they do their job training and their basic training at the same time. So infantries do that, MPs do that, tankers do that, Cav Scouts do that. I think there's a couple others as well. But anyways, so we're getting yelled at and stuff. This is really funny, actually. We're getting cussed out by these one soldiers, and like we think these soldiers are like somebody cool because they're like actually wearing a uniform, but these are literally just like holdovers they're like medical holdovers or whatever. Some of them never even got to basic training, or they just barely got to basic training and then they got injured and they're just using them there. And they're like yelling at us, like telling us we're like butt buddies or whatever for sitting next to each other. And it's hilarious because they're like, some of those guys literally got injured on like day 0 in basic training, and they haven't even made it halfway through basic training. Like they're not even actual soldiers. But we thought, we were like, oh shit, we're getting yelled at. You know, we better do what they say. That was funny. That was really, really funny. Like thinking back, it was funny. I was super nervous though. Basically though, we're all in the pews. We're sitting down. They give us like these cold ass dry sandwiches to eat. I still ate the sandwich. And then they pretty much like giving us a presentation about, hey, these are the things you can have. This is where we do our amnesty thing. I think I've mentioned this before. But basically, you're saying, hey, if you have any of these items, you can go in this room all by yourself and relinquish those items, and nobody will know you had those items. So even if you had weed or something, nobody's going to know that. You know, you can't have, I mentioned this before on the what you should bring to basic training video. But basically, yeah, knives. You know, obviously don't bring like nudes or whatever. It's kind of obvious stuff. Like, you can't have aerosol cans. That's one thing, is you can get high off of it or something. I'm not sure. But basically, yeah. So you go ahead, you give up your stuff. This is gonna be a long video. We gave up our stuff, and then from there, we started getting into some lines. That night, we got our PT uniforms. You know, it's like the black t-shirt, the black shorts, that, you know, with the gold army on them. We got our PT uniforms. We got our laundry bag, I believe. I think we got our Camelback, which is all we drank out of the whole time. I think that's all we got that day. Mind you, no masks. This was long before COVID. This was in 2017. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all we got. We got like socks, and we got our PT. So we still didn't have our PT shoes. So I think we wore civilian shoes. Once we got into our barracks, it's actually a huge barracks room, and there's like bays, and there's like multiple floors of bays. I think it was probably like 70 people in each bay, 70 or 80 people. I don't think like anybody showered that night, right? So basically, well, we got up into the bays. They're big buildings, right? I'm gonna show some pictures later, but there are big buildings. There's something called a CTA. A CTA is pretty much just like a central training area. It's pretty much just where you form up every time, where you get into a line every morning. You know, like basically, hey, everybody needs to go somewhere. That's where you stage. That's where you meet up before you go somewhere, right? And that's actually a thing in the regular army. That's a thing in basic training. That's a thing in AIT. That's a thing everywhere, pretty much. It's just a place to meet up, get everything together, and then go. And there's like these big, giant, like metal canopy, almost like a metal carport almost, but huge, absolutely huge. In my reception company, we had over 600 soldiers, and that's because we were mixed in with all the infantry guys. So I think it was 3 companies worth of basic training and OSET guys. Every single BCT guy I was in reception with, I was also at basic training with. Both of the people I swore in with that were going to basic Fort Benning, I was in reception and in basic training with. There's people I met in reception that I went through all of basic training with. Brown is one of them. Brown. He's a super cool guy. But yeah, because I stood next to him in reception. So we were together in reception. We were buddies all through basic training. He went somewhere else though, but for AIT. But there are people I went through reception, basic training, and all of AIT with. And there's a couple people that are even stationed where I'm stationed from those places, which is pretty cool. But basically, we go up into the building. I think I was on the 3rd floor or something. There was 4 floors, I think. And it's a really big room, lines of bunks. There's shower on the left-hand side. There's washers and dryers. The showers they just have like a little retaining wall in between them. And there's no curtain, there's no door. It's mostly an open shower. I don't think anybody showered that night though. But what we did, we put all of our civilian stuff in our backpack, besides our shoes, because we didn't have our PT shoes yet. In a backpack, and we put them in a room, right? Our cell phone was also supposed to be in that. Some people held on to their cell phone, and I don't know, drill sergeants didn't really care. So there are drill sergeants over that, but it's literally like one drill sergeant marching like 600 people. A few people had their cell phone. The drill sergeants really don't care about this whole time period. I think I was in reception for 7 days, mind you. I think we did push-ups like 1 time, because that's not basic training, right? You're gonna get basic training once you get to your company. Went with the shark attack on day 0. My next episode is gonna be about red phase of basic training, and my experience with that. But basically, we go to sleep that night, probably at like almost 3 a.m. It was like 2:30 in the morning because it took us forever to do all that other stuff. By the time those other people came, it was almost 9 o'clock at night. So, and we got our uniforms, we did all that. And mind you, not our OCPs yet, just our PT uniforms. So we got to sleep probably about 2:30. The one and only time I ever cried in basic training or AIT, I cried that night, because I missed my family a lot, you know. Basically though, the next morning we got like 2 hours of sleep maybe. I think we woke up at like 5:20 or something, and we got to sleep at like maybe 3 o'clock. But from there, we woke up in the morning, and I can't tell you step by step from here because it was 7 days and it was 4 years ago. Basically, I'm gonna, some funny things that's happened. So, the most annoying part is you're marching with 600 people. Super, super annoying. Now, there wasn't all 600 people there until a day or two later. Not everybody had gotten there yet. But basically, the next day, we got our haircuts. We might have gotten our haircuts on the first day, but everybody gets a haircut. Females, I have no idea what it's like for you guys. We didn't have any females, and I can't mention anything on that. Everybody got a haircut. Straight buzz, obviously, pretty much bald. I feel like it's pretty much standard. Most people know that. We got our haircuts, and something that's really funny is, so there's a bunch of different companies, right? So a company there's like 3 or 4 companies per battalion, and companies in basic training there's 5 companies per battalion. A company is 4 platoons. So you have a platoon, and then your platoon goes into a company, and then your company goes into a battalion, right? But there were other companies, and they actually had their OCPs. We didn't have our OCPs yet, so when we were marching around getting chow or doing whatever, we would see them in their actual OCPs, and we were like, oh wow, look at that, like they're doing something. And I'm like, they've literally only been there like 2 days longer than us, and they have their uniforms and we don't. Yeah, and we thought like they were high speed or something. That was hilarious. Just because like they're in a uniform, that means they're high speed. Like it's definitely a scary feeling. Like it's just so new, like I've been in the Army now for almost 4 years, and wearing a uniform is just such a regular thing for me. But back then, even the first night I put on my PTs, I was like, look at that, I got Army up here. I thought it was cool. I really thought it was cool, and yeah, it is cool for sure. This is a long video, holy shit. But basically, the next day, a lot of people ask about this. Is another thing. I'm just going to touch on a few key things instead of going through the whole thing from here. So you get a bunch of shots. You don't know what you're getting. I don't even know if you can ask what you're getting, but basically you go in line, they have your chart, it's like, oh, this is what you need. And then I got poked in the left arm 4 times with 4 different needles. I have no idea what I got. Some people got a shot in the butt, some people don't. It depends what you need. Not everybody gets the same things. Not everybody, I knew somebody got like 8 shots that day, 8 or 9 shots. So when people are, you don't know what you're getting at all. You're not even allowed to ask what you're getting, at least when I went. You just get the shots. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? You don't ask questions. We did a lot of standing around. We stood in this big gymnasium area and we practiced the Army song and the Soldiers' Creed a bunch when we weren't doing anything. People would be nodding off. We got yelled at for sleeping. Then we got yelled at for talking. Pretty much you get yelled at. Like, it's nothing at all like what your actual drill sergeants are going to do. But yeah, you get yelled at. Basically, reception is paperwork. You do paperwork, you get your CAT card, you get your uniform, you get your OCPs. Make sure your boots fit. What they're going to do with the OCPs is they're going to be like, oh, you fat, you get an extra large for this fat ass. That's pretty much what they do. They do a bunch of civilians and they just throw uniforms at you. I was like, yep, you're fat. There you go. Basically, that's what they do. So I had baggy uniforms through all of basic training. I lost 20 pounds in basic. It's whatever. It's just something you gotta deal with. You get your boots. This is something I need to touch on. I could make a whole video about it. You do this in reception as well. So you actually get money. So people are like, this is a common misconception is that you out of pocket or it's taken out of your paycheck, your dress uniform, your OCPs, your boots, all of that. That's not the case, actually. Every single thing you get in reception that's handed to you by the civilians is actually free to you. Your first uniforms are free. They are issued to you. You are not paying for them, but everything else you do pay for. So you get something called an Eagle card, right? And this Eagle card is $500. That's an advance on your first paycheck. The military gets so much money already. Like, I feel like they don't need to do this. But basically, so you're going to go into, it's kind of like a store. The one for reception was just for people on reception. And there's the things you need. They literally tell you what to get and all of the items to get. I did talk about this in the what to bring to basic training video. But basically, toothpaste, you get your PT shoes, which are very important. They actually measure your feet to make sure you get good PT shoes. They actually care about that. Later in basic training, if you have issues with them or something, they'll actually let you go back there and get new shoes because that's important. You got to do PT, you need to run. They do see that, like, hey, boots and shoes are important. They're not completely heartless. Like, if you'd be like, hey, drill sergeant, I'm having an issue with something, believe it or not, they'll actually help you. They're not just heartless bastards, you know what I mean? Like, they do yell at you because it's part of the game. It's what you do. You get yelled at in basic training. It's how it is. But basically, you go there. You have an option to buy a watch. I bought a $36 watch, which was awesome, and I've worn it every single day up until a couple of weeks ago when the band broke again. But get a watch. Some people didn't. Definitely get a watch because you don't have your phone or anything. The only way you have to tell a date or a time or anything is from your watch, and everything has a hit time. Be like, hey, be downstairs at this time. Be here at this time. And you need a watch. Get a watch, guys. But basically, there's we were allowed 1 bag of cough drops. That was weird. This is more of a basic training thing than a reception thing. But basically, they tell you what you're allowed to get, and then you have to get those things. You use that Eagle card, and that is $500 from your first paycheck that's taken out, right? From there, we got our uniforms, we got our boots. So we pretty much got everything done in like the first 3 days. And then it was just 4 days of waiting around for the most part. At the very end, before we ship out to our actual basic training, well, I'll tell a couple fun stories first. This is a long video. So up in the food was actually pretty good. Not too bad. That's all I'm going to say on that. I can make a whole video on basic training food. I might do that. But up in the Bay, we had a lot of fun. Mind you, there's one drill sergeant in charge of 600 people. He does not give a S. So like we would be taking the mattresses and we actually like ran and like slid on the mattresses like they were a sled kind of. And like it was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. We were quite hooligans in the Bay for sure. That was fun. That was really fun. Showering in an open shower, I didn't have an issue with it. Lots of ass, obviously. I was still really working on my PT, so we would actually run around the Bay. Quite a few of us. We would do push-ups. We would work out in the Bay. So as far as PT goes, I can make a whole episode on basic training PT as well. But basically, physical training, working out. That's what PT is. We don't do PT in reception. Mostly they don't want people to get injured. We did do like a mock PT test. So we did, I don't know why, but we did a pull-up. We did sit-ups, and then we did a 1 mile run. And depending on that 1 mile run time, if you were like less than 10 minutes or something, you actually had to go to fat camp before you could even go to basic training. You wouldn't even be allowed to go to basic training if you couldn't run that 1 mile in a certain amount of time. This is before you even get to basic training. I ran like a 9-minute or something. But basically that's the ability run group you get put in once you're in basic training. Right? It's just like you run in a group of people that run similar to your pace, so everybody has a challenge, right? Because if everybody's running together, people who are in shape, they're not going to get any workout. People who are not in shape aren't going to be able to keep up, right? So basically there's that. That was whatever. That was fun. We ran 1 mile. Basically, we did everything we had to do in the first 3 days. And then in the last 4 days, we just sat in a gymnasium and in metal chairs and tried not to fall asleep and waited until the next meal. That's pretty much all we did. Like I said, I was there for 7 days. I got there on October 24, late night on October 24, and I actually shipped to basic training on Halloween day. It was Halloween morning. I think I got to basic training at like 9 a.m. That was a scary Halloween for sure. Right before we shipped out though, we were all in the line in the CTA. They did a Facebook Live thing and went down the line and they asked people, hey, say hi to your families, blah, blah, blah. And then they had us call our families and they gave us a 10-minute phone call actually. And that's when I said, I'm going to show a couple pictures at the end here. I showed my wife, I took a selfie while I was there. And that was the very first time my wife ever got a picture of me or saw me in my military uniform, which was, definitely, it's definitely something to be proud of for sure. Something that basic training really does is it makes you feel proud of what you're doing. It gives you pride in what you're doing. It makes you feel like you're doing something, and that's something I really appreciate from the military. I'm about to be out. Actually, I only have like 11 days of actually working. June is my last month. It's, what I mean? And I'm going to be in the Kentucky National Guard. So stay tuned, guys. I'm going to finish my basic training and my AIT stories. And then I might make a video about processing at your unit. And then I might make a video about transitioning to the National Guard and then comparing National Guard to active duty. If you guys want me to make any other topics, please let me know. Sorry about this video being so long. I made 0 bullets, 0 anything, 0 notes. I just basically talked about my experience in reception. Not too bad. Not too bad. Reception was scary. I didn't get a lot of sleep. It was scary just because I don't know what's going to happen, you know. But basically from here, we're standing on the CTA. We got our 2 huge ass duffel bags in our backpack or assault pack. Buses show up, and there's drill sergeants on those buses, and those are my drill sergeants. From here, we're going to talk about red phase of basic training in the next video. I hope you guys stay tuned. I'm not making these videos as like a tips thing for like, before I joined, I watched a lot of Army YouTubers. I don't watch any now. This video is just about my experience and me telling my story. Now that I remember it fairly freshly, and I'm just kind of capturing these moments on video for me later. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.